Are you a leader who's ready to go from stuck to unstoppable? It's time to stop leading on autopilot and start leading with purpose. Through my Leadership with Purpose program and next level coaching, you'll gain the clarity and confidence and tools to lead from within so you can make a greater impact without burning out. Build stronger teams, crush self-doubt, lead with clarity and conviction, and unlock your next level of leadership. Don't settle for good leadership. Step into your greatness. Visit warrenwandling.com to learn more and start your journey today. Your next level of leadership starts now. Welcome back to How to Become an Obstacle Buster, the podcast where leaders learn how to overcome challenges, build resilience, and turn obstacles into opportunities. I'm your host, Warren Wandling, where I take you behind the scenes to introduce you to leaders that have led their lives in reference to uncovering strategies and successes around mindsets. And I have a great guest to help us do just that, Daniel Nikic. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Well, thanks for having me, Warren.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to having you on the podcast today.
No, I'm very excited to have this conversation and to discuss with you some interesting topics.
Yeah, so today's guest, Daniel, he's a global investment research expert, founder of Coherce, who has really analyzed more than 15,000 companies across industries like AI, software, and data. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you once again for having me.
Yeah, so I'm really fascinated about kind of your background, how you really got started with doing the research, because you've studied 15,000 probably plus companies across industries. What really drew you first into the global investment and research entrepreneurship?
That's a great question. So in terms of research, it's probably a skill set that I've been developing since I was a child. Because I was really into sports, but I've always been interested in data. And if there was an athlete, I'll be interested to see what previous teams they played for, how did they get to a certain point. And I've always kind of done that in the jobs I did, or it was financial analysis. So I did accounting, tax analyst when I was living in Canada. And since I'm born and raised in Canada, and in Canada, in university, at first I was studying accounting. Then I switched to international business. 2008 financial crisis happened, and I graduated in 2009. So I was kind of, maybe it wasn't the right time. It was a good life experience, let's just say. And then I worked in management consulting. I moved to Croatia when I finished university. And then at first I didn't think I was going to stay, but I ended up staying. And the reason I'm telling you this is get to where I got so into investment research. And I always did competitive research. When I was working in management consulting, then I was in real estate development, working for a company that did shopping centers, office centers, and logistics centers through Central Eastern Europe and called HP. Now they have projects in Turkey, Germany, Cyprus, and UK. And for them, I did primary and secondary research. And there I found really the value of research because it was so important in developing these investment proposals. And then after them, I or my company. Initially, I was focused on market research, general market research, and financial analysis. And I worked with this one company called Family Capital, and they're of the UK, and they did articles and published materials on family offices. And for those who don't know what family offices are, that's usually high net worth individuals, pretty much plus 50 million in liquidity, that have an investment firm that invests in companies. They might have accounting, legal company, philanthropy. Some are like Bezos Expeditions, Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation back in the day. Those are some examples. And they usually invest in VC funds, projects, and et cetera, back a lot of these high growth companies. And that's when I really got into, wow, investment research. This is like a totally different world. And I've always had a passion for entrepreneurship because I think anyone who's an entrepreneur knows it is a different mindset and it's very addictive. You don't need entertainment. You don't need any. Entrepreneurship is an addictive lifestyle. And I think with investment research, what I liked was that I got to see the process, how certain individuals and successful people dealt with stressful moments and become successful or failed. And I saw how the world is changing. Since I've been doing this since 2014, The world,
Hmm.
especially now, is changing quarterly,
Oh my
never
goodness,
mind
yes.
yearly. So that's a not so quick synopsis, but a little summary.
Yeah, that's fascinating how your younger years around sports analysis
Yeah.
kind of created that love for data, but understanding the importance of it and then connecting it with entrepreneurship. Very fascinating. So with that in mind, what major obstacle that you faced during your process as you're building your business, and how did you overcome that obstacle?
I think the biggest obstacle is getting your first client because I started this
Oh,
with
wow, yes.
0 clients. So I think when I was starting, it's like, what value can I bring to someone? Yeah, I worked at certain companies, but when you're entrepreneurship
Mhm.
or starting a company, your first clients are usually based on you, the founder, and what value you can give to them. And I contacted probably 10,000 individuals try to get that for client. And when I got it, it was
Mhm.
huge. And sometimes you have to give them a discount, is some of those, or I give them like a free sample and then I'll get their attention.
Mhm.
So that was really stressful because you kind of think like, wow, you really self-assess yourself. You deal with stress, you deal with how you can deal
Mhm.
with certain challenges. This might sound cliche, but a lot of times challenges open new opportunities. I've heard that from several individuals and
Mm.
those who've
Yeah.
been entrepreneurs. You definitely learn a lot about yourself. And then what some people might think that are problems, you're like, those are real problems. That's okay. You can live with that.
Mm. Mhm. So
So that
that's
would be my
fascinating
biggest
that you say getting their first client. So for leaders that are listening to the show today that are in that space, like they know they're stepping out, they want to do maybe start their own firm or whatever their entrepreneurial effort is. Any insight in reference to taking that first step and reaching out to those possible first clients?
The first step is you can't be afraid of rejection. You have
Yeah,
to
I love that.
assume no one likes you and don't take it
Okay.
personal. When you assume no one likes you, and you have in your
Uh-huh.
mind, I can deal with rejection, you're not afraid of getting rejected. It's kind of like a
Mhm.
mindset. And I think you also have to see where you go wrong. You have to try different strategies. I
Mhm.
always say this when dealing with entrepreneurs and startups and et cetera. Always think about the other side. How would you feel if you're in their position and you were pitching them? Yeah, you know yourself.
Mhm.
You have a price because you want to make money and be successful.
Mhm.
But what value can you bring them? What are they not seeing, or what opportunity are you grasping that they need your services for? It could be they have a job opening. It could be that they have a new project or are planning a new strategy that you can help them in that situation. That's great. Take advantage of that opportunity. That would be my
Mhm.
advice.
Yeah, I love that. When investors evaluate opportunities, what is the biggest mistake you see people make when they look at emerging markets versus new technologies?
Okay. So in terms of the biggest mistakes, I would say I made this mistake also when investors look into
Mhm.
emerging markets and startups, when I would work with VCs, is not being open-minded to
Mhm.
things change. If you ask someone 5 years ago that filters for photos would be huge, they'll be like, no way. It's a huge business. You look at videos today. You see people who do
Mhm.
like if they have a YouTube video or something, they use filters or Photoshop for their pictures. I know back in the day it was Adobe that was the only one that I really knew about, but now you see everywhere. So I would say
Mhm.
be open-minded. Do not be ignorant to humans, I would say, insecurities, because humans are in
Mm.
general insecure about something. And you have to look at, okay,
Mhm.
what do they need? It could be in terms of health, longevity. It could be for beauty. It could be for quick money. You see all these things that could be, they're big opportunities. You might think at the time, nah, it's not really. It could still be huge. Just look how popular AI assistants are. That's huge today. That wasn't before because you'd be like, no, you want to talk to a human. Why would you want to talk to a robot? But people are using AI assistants to be their therapist today. It's crazy.
So, you've studied thousands of companies. What are the key signals that tell you that opportunities are truly valuable versus just hype?
In the early stage or late stage, if you don't mind me asking, just to
Oh,
be specific.
that's a great question. Let's go with an early stage because sometimes that's when like it could seem like you want to get in early adopter, and you could fall into that area of really attaching to hype versus what is truly a good opportunity.
Okay. So for early stage, in my opinion, what really makes it a company successful is they have a strong team, probably founders that know how to deal with stress. Because in the beginning, your building is volatile. There is no security. you're not guaranteed to be break even or even be profitable at that stage. So I'm saying about seed, pre-Series A stage, at least, or
Mm-hmm.
even pre-seed. You have to be in a market that's growing. And this one investor told me a great advice. Always look to a company that's in a market that's going to be still relevant in 5 to 10 years, and that is growing. And another thing is, do they know the market? So, for example, if I'm going into neuroscience, why would someone invest in me if I don't have the experience or knowledge in that market? So that's something I would say is very important in early stage.
Is you?
Yes. And so to add to that, in terms of early stage, which is different from
Mm-hmm.
growth stage. So I'll say early stage in terms of they're pre-revenue or they're just getting the first traction or revenue or they're
Mm-hmm.
just trying to break even. I would say team is very important. The founders, do they have experience in the product or service that they're selling? Second
Mm-hmm.
is, are they serial entrepreneurs? Even though sometimes first-time founders are successful, but usually
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the times they say serial entrepreneurs are quite successful because they know how to deal with the failure.
Mm-hmm.
The market that the company's in, is it going to be valid in the next 5 to 10 years? Is it growing or is it becoming extinct, as they say? Another thing that's, I would say, is quite important. How do they manage finances? If they get that first funding, are they spending it wisely or is their burn rate going out of the ballpark, as they say, and
Mm-hmm.
just hoping to get the next funding round? And lastly, I think it is, are they filling a gap in the market or are they just copy and paste in
Mm.
terms of product and services?
Yeah, interesting. So those are the kind of like the red flags that you look for to tell if it's really hype or if it's really something that you should invest your time and effort into that project with that entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's usually the case.
So there's a lot of excitement around AI, and I think you do a lot of research specifically in this space. So from your perspective, what separates companies that are really AI innovation compared to those that are simply just riding the wave around AI?
No, that's a great question. So the ones that are usually, I would say, driving the innovation in AI usually have a
Mm-hmm.
patent, number one, if there's
Okay.
something innovative, because they're afraid of copyright or someone taking their idea. And it's usually they know what they're dealing with in terms of the coding, the framework, the architecture of the tech product, or
Mm-hmm.
in some cases they're using APIs. And I know the general public say a lot of people are riding the AI wave. And sometimes in the past I was like, yeah, that's true, but I think you can still utilize AI in your
Mm-hmm.
product and services. It doesn't mean you have to create it because there's so many language models out there and it's so expensive to generate AI
Mm-hmm.
models, train them. You need like millions of data points just for something so simple so it can understand it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, why would you waste all that money to build something if you can use an already finished one and just, I would say, pivot it someone to create the product
Mm-hmm.
that you need? And I think that's going to be the future. Kind of like, not everyone can build a internet or a Google or Yahoo back in the 90s. Why not
Mm-hmm.
use that as a template and build something else on top of that? My opinion. I think it comes down to, at the end of the day, I think AI, we're in the augmented AI stage, so we still need human
Mm-hmm.
interaction, but it's also not to the point that it's taking over the jobs. Like, I had to pivot my company from being, I would say, investment research, doing the old
Mm-hmm.
school way of human interaction using secondary sources, to kind of going as a AI concierge for investors, where I
Mm-hmm.
use AI to help me do a lot of the bot work, but it's still used based on my experience and I train it in a way that works properly. And I think
Mm-hmm.
AI overall is something that's innovating a lot of industries, but it does not replace humans because it doesn't have the intention. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have the experience, what a human goes through yet. Yes, it could be trained. Oh, I did this, this happened, da da da. And
Mm-hmm.
we still do business with humans at the end of the day.
Yeah, really interesting. So, in light of that, AI obviously needs that human-like training. So, can you kind of explain, kind of go more deeper into that same concept, where that's really going to impact business and in the future of using AI with the connection of human training?
So let's take, for example, I'm building a AI product. I'm going to tell it purple is the best color in the world. It's based on my human bias. When you train a model, it's based on what let's just say the architect of the model wants it to do. It's not
Mm-hmm.
based on what someone else wants it to do. And
Okay.
it also matters when you're training AI, what's the data source? You can have the best AI model in terms of it can understand, it be able to connect this to this, but it doesn't have the right data and information to train it doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
So data is still valuable. We heard about back in the day, I believe Jeff Bezos said data is the new oil. Well, it's not really the new oil as we know what's going on
Mm-hmm.
currently in the world, but
Yeah.
it's so important for AI models to train, and it still makes decisions based on AI, based on humans. When you use ChatGPT, Cloud, Perplexity, you
Mm-hmm.
can still give it direction. So we're still training the AI and it's still being trained continually based on our
Mm-hmm.
interaction. And I believe AI is not yet there to train humans, but it is there to assist it in doing the bot work and probably help build a lot of the work that, say, a junior does in
Mm-hmm.
when I say junior is someone who's just out of school that's getting their first job with the work that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think this will be needed, but I think it's quite scary what's going to happen in the next few years for those level jobs.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I kind of fear. And I'm thinking they could assist in training the AI models and auditing. And I think that's always going to be important.
Interesting. Yeah. So the question is just how to be able to adapt to the AI and integrate the human element within the technology. Just like we did with the internet, it didn't eliminate in reference to research. It was just another tool to be able to use to further the process in reference to research.
No, I totally agree. But I think a lot of users are using it at face value, and that's the problem.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. That's an interesting concept, right? Instead of eliminating your thought process, allowing AI to think for you. Is that in essence what you're saying?
Oh, definitely. But AI is not replacing a human totally. It's just there
Mm-hmm.
to, it's a tool. This one, I was at a conference, this is back in 2024 in Prague, Czech Republic, or Czechia,
Mm-hmm.
as someone might say. And this individual said, AI is not an industry, it is a tool. And I
Mm-hmm.
agree, just like internet is not an industry, it's a
Mm-hmm.
tool. And I view AI as something that can help us in a lot of regards, but sometimes it can hurt us. Because at the end of the day, it can also bring up a new wave of innovation and communication because I think a lot of individuals will want that authenticity
Mm-hmm.
when dealing with a company or dealing with someone. So there could be some positives coming of it that will be non-AI related.
Yeah, interesting. It'll definitely be interesting as it unfolds and we start to be able to really adapt it on a consistent basis. So
Definitely.
advice would you give leaders who are trying to identify the real opportunities in today's fast-moving global economy?
Cool. I would say don't be afraid to build.
Okay.
If you see opportunity, don't just chase the hype. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like fear of missing out, FOMO.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go that path in some ways because sometimes it can hurt you. And I would always say go back to the basics. Is something that you're building going to be relevant in 5 to 10 years? If not, I wouldn't be so sure. And is there a gap in the market that you see that others don't see that could be something? And one thing I would say is, are you building something innovative? Even if the market doesn't understand you, if you believe in something that you're doing is innovative, that's going to
Mm-hmm.
change a certain industry or solve a problem, that's huge. And one thing I forgot to mention, the problem solution, the product market fit, that's very important too. How does someone come up with the idea? And that's how you have to think. What's your idea? Is it just copy and paste for something? Or is it
Mm-hmm.
an idea that you have because it pivots to what you've been doing previously? And that's more innovative, if that makes sense.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so I love that question to ask is, are you copy pasting or is this an innovative in reference to your product? So even if you're a disruptor, is it being a copy paste from what someone else has done or is it truly being innovative?
Yes, I would agree. And sometimes when you mention disruptor, are you being
Mm-hmm.
disruptor to a market that's still going to be there? Because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
markets are going to go away. And we've seen it with postal, who mails cards anymore, or and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some stuff is changing. So you have to be, I would say, open-minded in that aspect.
Interesting. So what advice did you give our listeners, maybe one mindset or a principle that would help them become a better obstacle buster in business investing as they move forward, maybe adopting some of the conversation that we've had today?
I would say maybe it's a bit biased because I think research is so important. If you do
Uh-huh.
your own research, do your own screening, have a certain template or scorecard in your mind. If something doesn't follow this criteria, should I move forward with it in terms of investing? or should I not? Because I think a lot of times individuals don't have that. They just, as we said before, copy and paste someone and just go with that instead of doing their own analysis.
Very good. Yeah. So I love that advice, to being making sure that you have your own scorecard and do your own analysis and research before moving forward.
Yes.
So how about it from a mindset perspective? And you mentioned that earlier as we started discussion today around entrepreneurship, but mindset's so critical and important. Is there a mindset or a thought that you've really held close that allowed you to keep moving forward, even if you meet obstacles?
In terms of entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
I don't want to say the cliche saying, be disciplined, I
Yeah.
would say be able to deal with volatile moments and have a method to deal with stress. If you can't deal with stress, you won't succeed. You won't be an entrepreneur for more than 2 months, at least. You have to be able to deal with stress. And it will help you in your personal life, believe it or not.
Yeah, I love that. That is so true, dealing with stress. I've had another mentor of mine that says that pressure is a privilege.
Yeah, if you don't have pressure, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, what special projects are you working on?
Well, I'm doing the AI concierge for investors. So that's something I was working on for the past few months. And it's pretty much using, I would say AI is good, but it doesn't deal with workflow properly. It's a combination of current AI tools combined with my experience in investment research. And pretty much, I would say, using the human interaction to guide it and audit the AI and help investors to have more complete workflows and dealing with, I would say, volatile, stressful moments and information and data. So that's one thing I've been working on quite a bit. And I have another company I opened called AI Neo, which is focused on using AI to develop products. And we have a product called Legacify 365, which is a digital legacy management platform.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a whole show in itself, Daniel.
Yes, it is. So long story short, it's dealing with legacy of someone's social media accounts. Sadly, if someone passes away or say if they have a company and they want to make sure that they don't lose their passwords or their digital legacy still lives on.
I can see how that is really important in reference to, certainly as we are moving faster forward, to making sure we capture those legacies and making sure that they stay integrally intact.
Oh, definitely. It came from experience.
Interesting. Yeah, so I know our listeners would love to be able to get connected with you. What is the best way for them to be able to reach out?
The best way is to check out my website, danielnikic.com, or they could check out my company, Chorus, or LinkedIn. I have a quite unique name, so it's not hard to find. That's great. Thank you.
Well, excellent. Well, any last thoughts that you'd like to leave our listeners with in reference to overcoming obstacles within your area of expertise?
I would say the process is hard, but during the process, you'll look back on it with pride if you're able to deal with the certain obstacles that you dealt with.
Very good. Well, excellent. Well, I appreciate all of your insights and strategies, Daniel, helping out listeners to overcome obstacles, build resilience, and achieve success.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Warren.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, again, this is your host, Warren Wandling, saying until next time, be an obstacle buster and be resilient.